By 2078, Earth was a fractured testament to humanity's neglect. The floods had begun in earnest back in 2025, creeping up on coastal cities like a slow, inevitable tide. At first, they were just headlines. Distant, abstract. Leaders promised solutions. Corporations funded seawalls. But the water kept rising. By the time the world took it seriously, it was too late. Entire nations vanished beneath the waves, their cultures reduced to underwater ruins. The survivors fled inland, clawing for scraps of dry land, but the deserts offered little mercy. Dust storms raged where forests once stood, and the sun scorched the earth with a relentless fury. Aridia was born from this chaos, a domed metropolis of nanoglass spires and fusion reactors, rising like a mirage from the Colorado Plateau. Its air was cool, scented with synthetic lilac to mask the stench of the wastelands beyond. Hollow gardens bloomed in its streets, projecting lush greenery that hadn't existed for decades. Aridia was a sanctuary, but only for those who could pay. The water debt system ruled with cold precision. Every citizen owed their body weight in purified water, paid through labor or wealth. It was a simple equation: contribute or be cast out. Those who failed were branded water debtors and exiled to the Dry Divide, a brutal expanse of canyons and salt flats where survival was a daily act of defiance. Cale Vorn was a product of Aridia's underbelly. At 32, he was lean and wiry, his skin etched with UV scars from too many runs through the wasteland. His hazel eyes held a restless spark, always scanning for the next threat, or the next opportunity. Born in Tier 3, the cramped, humid warrens where the air filters wheezed like dying lungs, Cale had learned early that survival meant bending the rules. His mother, Alira, had worked the algae vats, her hands perpetually stained green, until a sudden quota hike left her short on her water debt. Exiled when Cale was 6, she'd waved from the gate, her silhouette fading into the dust. His father, Torin, a Tier 2 mechanic, died 2 years later when a fusion rig collapsed, leaving Cale with nothing but a rusted wrench and a bitter lesson. Aridia's system spared no one. By 16, Cale was smuggling hydroponic seeds to starving families in the lower tiers. The rush of defiance numbed his grief, but his first exile run scarred him deeper. At 17, he'd tried to sneak a boy, Taryn, back to his sister in Tier 3. A drone caught them mid-run, its red eye flashing. Cale dove into a sewer grate. Taryn froze and was dragged away. The boy's scream echoed in Cale's skull, a twin to his mother's silence. Every run since was a penance, a thread to mend those wounds. The debtors called him the Dry Fox, a name whispered in Aridia's shadows. Cale stood in the dim light of his workshop, the hum of machinery a familiar comfort. He double-checked his gear with the precision of a man who'd cheated death too many times. Thermal dampeners clipped to his vest to mask his heat signature from drones, a quantum beacon pulsing faintly in his palm for communication, and a pack stuffed with water tabs and protein gels, bare essentials for the wasteland. His skimmer, a sleek, wedge-shaped marvel of salvaged tech, sat ready, its fusion core glowing a soft blue as he ran diagnostics on its systems. Everything had to be perfect. The Dry Divide didn't forgive mistakes. Jax emerged from the shadows, his broad frame tense, his face shadowed with concern. "You sure about this, Cale? Patrols are doubling out there." His voice carried the weight of a man who'd seen too much loss. Cale smirked, adjusting a strap. Someone's got to stitch this mess together. But Jax wasn't smiling. He gripped Cale's arm, his eyes hard. "You're not invincible. I lost my brother to a drone. I don't want to lose you too." For a moment, Cale's bravado faltered. He clapped Jax's shoulder, softening his tone. "I'll be back. Promise." Jax sighed, turning away with a muttered, "You better," as he disappeared back into the workshop's gloom. Cale descended into Canyon 7, his boots crunching on the salt-crusted stone as he picked his way down the narrow path. The air cooled as he dropped deeper, the towering canyon walls throwing jagged shadows that dulled the sun's brutal glare. Below, torchlight danced across a cluster of tents made from patched synth cloth, their edges fluttering in the faint evening breeze. The exile camp buzzed with quiet purpose, figures hunched over solar rods repairing gear, or sharing scant portions of food around flickering fires. In this harsh wasteland, their lives were a testament to resilience, every scavenged piece of tech a thread in their fragile tapestry of survival. At the camp center stood Lyra, stirring a pot of algae stew over a glowing solar-heated rod. She was lean, her frame sharpened by years of exile, but her movements carried a steady grace. Her cloak, threaded with faint solar filaments, shimmered in the firelight, an exile-crafted marvel that captured daylight to power their tools. Once a hydro-engineer in Iridia, Lyra had designed systems to squeeze every drop from the city's dwindling reserves. But a factory spill had erased her credits and the council had banished her without mercy. Now she was Canyon 7's anchor, her expertise keeping their fusion rigs and stills alive. The skimmer tore through the wasteland, its fusion core thrumming as Kale pushed it to its limits. The storm had grown into a monstrous wall of dust and fury, blotting out the horizon and reducing visibility to a few feet. Grit pelted the skimmer's hull like 1,000 tiny fists, and the wind howled with a primal rage, as if the earth itself was punishing them for daring to cross its broken skin. Kale's hands gripped the controls, knuckles white, his jaw clenched against the relentless assault. Behind him, Lyra clung to the seat, her breath shallow through her mask, her eyes scanning the swirling chaos for any sign of drones. The skimmer burst from the storm's grip, the dust parting like a curtain to reveal Iridia's dome in the distance, its nanoglass spires gleaming under a blood-red sunset, but the relief was short-lived. A low hum cut through the fading wind, and Kale's heart sank as 3 council drones emerged from the haze, their sleek black frames slicing through the air with predatory precision. Their red sensors locked onto the skimmer, and a cold voice crackled over Kale's comm: "Halt, or be neutralized." Kale's skimmer skidded to a halt at hatch 9, the storm's fury finally fading behind them. The drones hovered above, their red sensors locked on the pair, but Kale's hands were steady as he activated the override code from Lyra's bio key. The dome's shield flickered, its violet arc sputtering out like a dying flame. Iridia's lights dimmed, and for a moment the city seemed to hold its breath. The exiles, hidden in the shadows beyond the gate, seized their chance. They surged forward, a tide of defiant faces lit by the glow of their scavenged tech, pouring through the hatch before the council could react. Inside, chaos erupted. Alarms blared, and the lower tiers, long oppressed by the water debt, rose in protest, their voices a roar that shook the spires. Mira, waiting just beyond the hatch, flung herself into Lyra's arms, her sobs muffled against her mother's cloak. Lyra held her tight, her own tears cutting through the dust on her face. "You're safe now," she whispered, though the words felt fragile in the face of what was to come.